This is Rick Reynolds, gentleman podcaster about town and lover of retro video gaming podcasts. And I like to listen... Wait, this is the SNES podcast? Greg, I never had an SNES. Yes, I didn't have an SNES, but I'm guessing you did. You're listening to Soul Blazer talking about the SNES system, something that you totally had growing up. Am I done now? Is that good?
At $200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! You're king!
Only for Super NES. Only on Super NES. You're listening to the SNES broadcast with your hosts, Soul Blazer and George.
Hello, welcome to Super NES Podcast, episode number 95 this time. I am Greg, joined always by George.
I like giant mechs.
Yeah, giant mechs rock. Can't go wrong with that.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you're playing whether you're playing like a online version like a Mech Warrior, or you're doing like maybe like a new hotness like right now, which is like which is that Steam game, which I can't think of the name of it like right now because I suck.
There's a lot of Steam game or a decent amount of Steam games that. Okay, yeah. I thought you were gonna bring up like Hawken or something.
Nope. Beyond the Breach is the popular Steam indie game right now. It's like you're recording this in 2018, and you definitely use a mech in that game. So,
if you're trying to figure out a way to play Front Mission online, that's a joke that some people won't get.
Right. But it works because we are covering a Front Mission game. This is George's pick, and George wanted to pick a Japanese-only Front Mission game. Which, to be fair, most Front Mission games are Japanese-only. If anybody's listened to our coverage of Front Mission 3 on the PlayStation Power podcast, we talked about all the games of the series, and over half the games have been Japan-only because this franchise, for one reason or another, has not had huge popularity here in the States, which is a shame because the games are very good. But So George wanted to cover a Front Mission game for this podcast. Which game did you pick, George?
Front Mission Gun Hazard.
Yes. If you've not heard of this one, don't be surprised. I had never heard of this one either until we started playing it. This is an early Front Mission game, 1996. Yeah,
but it's an interesting spin-off game.
Yes, it is, and I'm going to talk about that. While doing the research like with this game. This was only the second Front Mission game made. Period. The first Front Mission game came out with the Super NES in Japan only in 1995, and I mentioned before in the past, but if you want to play that game, I highly recommend the DS version of the game, which came out with that several years ago. It's a very good version of that game, with a few niceties and a few other additions added onto the game to make it kind of more playable like in this day and age. But Front Mission's a great game. So, and this is this next game in the series, and it's very unusual for a game this early in a franchise history to be a spin-off. Usually when you have a spin-off, it's like later on down the road, like the fourth or fifth game in the series. So I don't know why Square wanted to do a spin-off game this early. Maybe they weren't quite sure what direction they want to take Front Mission 2 yet, and they're experimenting. So I'm really not sure.
That's a good guess.
But because Front Mission 2, the actual proper sequel, came out the following year in 1997. like the PlayStation. Again, Japan only. But we would not get a Front Mission game here in the West until Front Mission 3.
I think that game might have been translated by fans by now. I know we had a conversation about this before.
Yeah. All the Front Mission games have been translated by this point. So this game here was translated by the famous group.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, this game, Gun Hazard, was translated by the famous group like Aeon Genesis back 2004. So they've done a lot of translations. So, but this game came out in Japan February 23rd, 1996. Developed and published by SquareSoft, obviously.
Wait, really? The people who created Front Mission also created this Front Mission game?
Hey, there are spin-offs. There are spin-offs done by other companies. So don't laugh.
I know, I'm making a joke.
And
I'm being a terrible person.
And this is not the only, and this is not the only spin-off game in the franchise either. I mean, this as far as I can tell, this is the only spin-off game that actually covers this particular world and this particular setting. But there have been a bunch of other Front Mission spin-off games. There was Front Mission Alternate, Front Mission First, Front Mission History, Front Mission Online, Front Mission 2089, Front Mission Evolved. Those are all considered to be spin-offs.
Every time we bring up Front Mission Online, I just shed a tear. I want to play that game so bad. I do. It's not a joke. I do.
Well, Evolved has some online play, right?
Yeah, but Front Mission Evolved plays differently.
Oh yeah, sure, of course, but
no.
So, I would classify Front Mission Gun Hazard as being a combination side-scrolling shooter and like a role-playing game. As weird as that sounds, would you agree?
It's more of an action RPG.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely.
I wouldn't say it's a shooter because the shooters are different.
But you definitely, but you definitely are shooting a lot of things in this game.
Oh, you're certainly using guns. Yeah. You're using guns to shoot things, but I think even if you look it up on like Wikipedia or whatever, it claims it's an action RPG.
It also makes a comparison, and I hadn't thought about this until recently, that this game has a lot in common with gameplay style with stuff like Konami Cybernator, which I definitely agree with, because Cybernator I've also played. Cybernator's a great game. We're going to cover that at some point in this podcast.
I never played it, so...
Yeah, some of the same people worked in both games, which I didn't know about. So that explains the similarity.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm more interested in playing that game now.
So the Front Mission games themselves are usually mech tactical based RPG games, where this one's more of a, like George said, is more of an action RPG game, but it does have some, but it definitely has some similarities with the main Front Mission games. The biggest of which you control a mech, which are called Panzers, like in this universe.
Yeah, it's an interesting name. They didn't just call them mechs or whatever. I'm glad they actually.
Yeah, it's a German name. I don't know why they went with a German name. Maybe because the protagonist in Front Mission is from German background. Maybe that's why. And they just kind of kept it named that going forward.
I don't know, but I'm glad that they actually put a name on there and didn't just say, "Oh, these are mechs." Because that's kind of a cop out. That just makes it feel like they even put more effort into it, just giving them a name.
Yeah, and your Panzers definitely have more abilities and powers in this game than they do in the other Front Mission games. It's because they can jump, fly, dash, as well as walk and use shields and weapons.
Well, I mean, all that stuff is still there in the other games. It's just it plays differently because those games are tactical games. Like there are shields in the game still.
True. Yeah.
The jumping, it takes a different form in this game because the way that it works in the other games, obviously, is if you don't have high enough power from the jetpacks or whatever, you can't reach certain elevations. If something's X amount of distance up, you can't reach it. Whereas, in this game, actually very necessary to have.
Oh yes.
The jets. But yeah, I mean, basically everything in this game is something that's in the other games, just obviously works differently. You know, even the dashing, you know, you could even see it in Front Mission 3. You're able to go further. You're able to travel further in your turn. So,
right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, because, like, you know, you definitely are doing some of the same mech-based things in both games. I mean, like, you know, there is enough, despite the very different style of gameplay, there definitely is enough in common with this game to recognize the Front Mission game like right away, because you know, and some of the mechs and characters look similar to characters and stuff like in other games. So, like whatnot. This game's not entirely user-friendly, which is common for a game of this time period, but since it was only translated, people have had to figure things out through trial and error. George and I definitely had some problems trying to figure out how to do certain things in this game, because not everything's the game does not ever explain everything to you at the beginning, and I don't think it's a fault of the translation. It's just the fact that this is a game of the mid-90s. They didn't bother explaining everything to you in the game because games this time period expected you to read the manual to figure out stuff.
And I wish I had the manual to read, but you know,
not unless you know Japanese.
Yeah. That's kind of a problem, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but over the years, this game's developed a pretty good fan base. Like, so most of the things, like if you go online checking out certain FAQs or videos and whatnot, you can figure things out because people have talked about this game to a pretty good degree by this point. This game's definitely become a cult favorite over the years. And it's a real shame it didn't come out here in the States, because I think it would have done that very well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's start off at the top of the screen here, because George, because at first glance, this is like a mess of figures, and you have no idea what the hell is going on here. So,
right.
There's two bars at the top of the screen. Here, the first bar at the top, from left to right, it shows you your current hit points, and also shows you the experience points you've earned so far to get to the next level. But those are communicated to you in terms of mostly in terms of levels of gauges. And you just have to like read at a glance estimate exactly how much you have, how much XP you need to advance to the next level. Like, for example,
there's no numbers on those bars, which is a shame. They could have certainly done that.
Oh yeah, because they do use numbers.
I don't know why they didn't though.
Yeah, because they do use numbers like later on. It gives you gives you some information on the enemy you're fighting and whatnot, in terms of like how many XP that you just earned defeating that enemy, like whatnot. And those are numbers. Right. So it's like, I don't understand why certain things were done certain ways, but
it was probably more of a cosmetic choice over anything, which is really weird. Right. But I wish that it would let you know. I honestly don't really care about the experience that much. I want to know how much health I have left. Yeah. You can see number representation when you're using items when you want to heal.
Correct.
But other than that, in battle, no.
Yeah.
Which is weird, isn't it? So here's another thing: to heal, you can do so out of battle, but you use fuel. So fuel turns into repairing your mech. I never understood that. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I'm kind of thinking of it as
because like in battle you use repair kits.
Right.
That makes sense. But when you're out of battle, you use fuel to repair your mech.
I'm kind of thinking of it as kind of like, they're trying to figure out a way of being able to show resources being consumed, and like taking fuel out of your mech to convert into some kind of like repair kit. I think it's what they're trying to say.
I guess you could have just called it like scrap metal or something, though. You know?
Yeah, that could work too. But
it's weird. But I just imagine like, oh, mech's damaged. Just gotta throw some fuel onto it. It's like, no, that's not good. That's gonna make it go on fire.
Right. Speaking about mechs, the game screen also shows you the current version, the current model mech that you're using, as well as the weapon you currently have equipped and how many shots you have left for that weapon.
I really like the mech designs. They're all different, and they play differently too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the especially like the starter mech is like, it really feels like the starter mech, because once you get that next model, whew, it feels different. It really does.
Yeah, it's a huge upgrade, but. Yeah, George and I had problems for a while trying to figure out how you actually upgrade you upgrade your mechs, but
it's all tied. It's tied into levels, but
tied into levels and also tied into money that you make, because you also earn money during missions.
No, it's tied into story progress.
Okay, but you use money to purchase weapons.
Like, because once I got to a certain point, it was like the shop's open, and I was like, okay, well, let's see what's here.
Right.
I was like, oh, the new mech is here. Oh, sweet.
Yeah, the mechs themselves are governed by level progression and how far you go in the story. The weapons upgrades you can buy for the mech are determined by money, and you earn money by doing well in combat, basically. Just like, it's like loot drops. But going back to your point about mechs, I wasn't going to talk about this like right now, but it's a good transition point. This game being a Super NES game is graphically gorgeous. The graphics of this game are super handsome.
What's better though, the aesthetics or the music?
Well, the music I was going to talk about here like later on, because the music's definitely kick ass as well too, and there's reason for that. But this came out in 1996. This is a late Super NES game, so it's like, and Square was always very good at figuring out how to do the. Square was very good at figuring out how to get the most out of the system to begin with. So it's like, not only do the mechs look different. They're very detailed and they're very orientated. Even the little squat-ass humans that you see in the game are orientated graphically displayed like very well, I thought. And there's a wide amount of backgrounds that you fight in: cities, snow-covered mountains, caverns, bases. That looks great.
Yeah, no, there's so much detail in all these places. I found that cities have better detail than like outside areas, but still everything's great, and the background scrolling and everything is
very good. Yep, it's very smooth. So
the only problem I really have is the like when you're on the map, the main map, or actually just either map screen, either the overworld or the like when you're in a certain country, like it's just way too slow.
Well, it's also processing a lot of stuff. So I mean, like, the Super NES was never the fastest system to begin with. So, but
I mean, like when you're inside a country, like it's not like a cursor you can move around. It's like something that sticks to like each like area, and it just I just wish it was like a free cursor. And I don't see how it wasn't possible to do something like that. It was just like just a show of the times that they didn't think of having like a free form cursor type of deal for that stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's a small drawback. It's not a huge deal to me, though, at least. But
oh no, it's not a deal breaker for the game. Of course not. You'd be ridiculous if that upset you so much. I'm just bringing it up.
Right.
Yeah.
The map definitely is also very detailed, because you have a detail as far as the graphics. The graphics look. It almost looks square-based. You almost would swear that you could just like lay like a tactical grid over it and actually see it that way because of how it's designed. But the graphical fidelity here is like very good. Overall, the game's a graphical treat. I mean, the mechs themselves kind of seem a bit small, but when
depends on what mechs you're using there.
Like we're fighting against, because some of the bosses in this game are freaking huge.
Well, there are even those like bomber mechs that are bigger than you.
Oh yeah, definitely. So
it's whoa.
So yeah, the side-scrolling action in this game, the graphics do a very good job at that, because they
oh yeah.
But
I think that the only bad part about the graphics is the representation of people out of their mechs, because there's only so much you can do with the SNES. So it's kind of limited with just the people. But that gets a pass. Seeing the people doesn't really matter that much anyway.
Yeah, the character portraits during the cutscenes and whatnot are also very well done.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So
I'm just thinking about it now. Like, even Front Mission 3 was pretty bad with the kind of bad with the representation of people outside their mechs.
Yeah, for different reasons, because that game,
right?
Yeah, that game was using like a 3D based engine, so
right.
And for that time period, it was still very rough, so for sure. So
especially it was on the PlayStation, so trying to make something that small is not that great.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So George mentioned the music earlier. The music also is kick-ass in this game, and there's a reason for that. Because this game was a joint composition between Nobumatsu and Yasunori Masuda, who previously joined forces together to make the music for Chrono Trigger.
Right.
So I mean, like, Uematsu, of course, is the god of music. He doesn't really need any kind of introduction. But Masuda also was a very well-known Japanese composer of this time period. He also composed a whole lot of games. Uematsu said after the fact that Masuda worked so hard on the soundtrack, he actually had to be his health eventually suffered because of it. He had to be hospitalized.
Do you have a list of games that they have worked on?
I can find out real quick. While I do that, why don't you talk about the music, George?
The music's great. It's got a lot to it. I think my favorite part is when you complete a mission, though. It's got that late 80s, early 90s vibe. I don't know if you've had that feeling, Greg. Once you complete a mission. But it's dude, every time I get that, it's you know what? It's time to dance for about 5 seconds and then get back into the game. But the music, I mean, it reminds me of Final Fantasy VI. It really does. It really sets that mood, and it does it well. Especially the times where you come across things that are just heartbreaking, you know. One of the sections where you learn that the rebels that you're contracted under are actually the bad guys, and it's oh man, they're making their people work their butts off, and they're not getting anything out of it. Just like the commander and everything is getting the money. They're stealing money from these people, you know. They claim that they want to start a revolution and make everything great, but it just it's great. It really sets the tone perfectly.
So to answer your other question, Masuda has worked on a ton of games, more so here than even realized. His first project was Chrono Trigger, along with Uematsu. Okay. So the soundtrack does remind me a lot of Chrono Trigger as well. Also, you definitely could tell the same two guys worked on it. Some of Mitsutsu's most famous games he worked on, because there's a whole list here that I could rattle off. Xenogears, Mario Party, Chrono Cross, Shadow Hearts, the Xenosaga series, Xenoblade Chronicles, Kid Icarus Uprising, some of the music to let's see, trying to see what else here came out here in the States. Bomberman 64, Gaia 2, a bunch of other games too. So
that's what you just read off was a pretty good track record.
Oh yeah. So definitely some great music behind the stuff too. So
certainly.
So yeah, I mean, Squaresoft definitely knew how to make the Super NES sound chip definitely work, and this music is definitely as good as their other efforts on the system as well for how it sounds. It's very well composed.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that. Yeah, I really love the mechanical theme that they also use the soundtrack to kind of give that kind of because Front Mission 3 had this. Front Mission 3 had this also, but I think it's more easy to tell in this game the kind of mech feel they're going for with the soundtrack.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. That music's great. Oh. Can we just listen to that for the rest of the podcast?
So the story for this game is interesting. It's like I said before, it's definitely it definitely has something to do with like like I mentioned before, it's like the Gaiden games. It really doesn't have anything to do with the main front mission for front mission games, but the story of the story itself is like pretty good because there are, as you expect, the front mission games. There are twists and turns and like surprises and people who think are going to be your enemies are not, and vice versa and whatnot. But the basic plot like the game takes place in the year 2064. And for a while, the nations of the Earth by working together to go into space to get the resources that they needed to be able to basically survive. And they were working on an orbit elevator called Atlas. But before Atlas could be completed, there was a breakthrough in miniature fusion reactors, such as the kind of reactor that used to power your Vanzors, for example. So with that development, the Atlas project was stopped, and the world regressed back into a whole bunch of conflicts, and you play in this game as the Bergen Army soldier, translated name of Albert Grabner. Who was hired by rebel forces to basically try to stop a coup d'etat taking part in his nation, and things develop from there.
Yes, they do. Some bad things happen.
Yep.
Hate to break it to you. Spoilers. Bad things happen in this game.
Yep, you get to go around the world. You get to visit different countries. Like New York City takes place on one stage, for example. And you also get to associate with different groups and different groups of countries and whatnot.
You're forced to leave your country and you become a mercenary.
Yep. So.
Yep.
So similarities to the other front mission games, but not really connected to the plot line per se. But still a very good story. I expected this gameplay to. I expected the game to be focused. I expect the game to focus more upon the gameplay, and the gameplay is very, very good. But the story is also better than I expected.
There's both sides to it, and it's crazy for a spin-off game to have some pretty good story and gameplay. Sometimes spin-off games just suck in general.
Most of the cutscenes are pretty short too. They only last maybe 30 seconds, a minute. But so
there's something about that. There's something like that, yeah.
So you can still play this game and enjoy it quite a bit. You're not much for cutscenes because the cutscenes are very short. And this game gets this game gets difficult very fast.
Does it? I don't think I really had much. I think the only difficult part I had was...
Right.
Let's see. I'm trying to think now. I know there was a time where I had some slight difficulty, but honestly, I never really got backed into a corner that bad.
Well, certain stages you can also call upon a second AI-controlled ally unit to help you out, which is definitely kind of a nice thing to do because...
Which for a while I didn't realize was a thing.
Yep. Yeah, so, and also, there's a cheat code in the game that allows that second player to play along, for that ally. During play, while he's on the screen, if somebody pushes the second controller down, L, R, and start at the same time, that will allow that player, that will allow the AI-controlled ally to be human-controlled instead. So something.
Are you telling me you can play two-player front mission?
Yes, in some stages.
Oh my god.
In some stages. So, but So yeah, the actual game has a very easy to understand flowchart to it. The game is very linear, in most senses. You get to pick which mission that you want to do in certain points of the game. George and I, for example, did different missions apparently here shortly into the game because there's a small amount of freedom in this game to what missions that you do.
It's also really interesting. I don't know if you'd noticed this, but when you go into a country, you don't have to do every single mission in the country.
Yeah.
I've actually, and there are different paths to take too.
Yeah.
There's a country that I have not finished every mission, but I've finished all the story, and that's really interesting. Some some areas branch around, like they flank around some areas. I think for the most part, I actually just went straight on into everything. So,
yep, that's very true. Basic flowcharts. The flowchart of this game is essentially watch the cutscene, do the mission, set the Vanzer during the intermission, play and sort of for the next mission, play, rinse, and repeat. So the game flows very well. I mean, there is some downtime which you're using to customize your mech and whatnot, but you spend more time actually shooting things than really like a cutscene, which is a good thing for a game of this type.
Yeah, you can even go back to areas that you completed, and you can actually grind experience out of that. I don't know if it's endless. I don't think it is. I think eventually they run out of enemies, but you can essentially grind in this game, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't really seen a reason to. There was a couple of times where I had to redo some missions because, you need a key card. And okay, well, let's go here. You need a key card again. Right. Okay, whatever. So then, I finally found the key card and I had to redo those two areas. But and then there was one time where I wanted to get more acclimated with the controls and everything, so I redid a couple more missions and I got some extra XP there. But it's great. The experience goes straight to your character, doesn't go to Wanzer or anything. Right. But on top of that, there's also like a passive skill type of deal with leveling up. The weapons that you use and the Wanzer that you use, they have their own kind of XP system as well. That's measured in percentages. Where the Wanzers go up to 100, I believe, and then weapons can go up to 120%. It marks everything by ones up until 100, then it goes by tens. Which is weird. I don't know why it does that.
Not the easiest thing to figure out.
Right. But that's all passively. And what that does is for weapons get stronger.
You have four primary weapons you can use in combat: Vulcan guns, shotguns, laser rifles, like napalm guns, and you can also have secondary weapons. You can also have secondary special weapons equipped to your Vanzer as well. If you're playing this game, you're probably going to get to a point where you have unlocked like level 2 shotgun or level 3 or whatever, and you go and look at it. Oh, this is weaker. Why do I want this? Well, because you can level it up and it'll be much more powerful, and it's certainly worth it. A lot of people say that the shotgun is the most powerful. The shotgun's nice. Like,
primary weapon in the game. That's true, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who would prefer the Vulcan. I definitely prefer the shotgun myself.
Every weapon
the shotgun, though, the drawback on that is you definitely have to get closer to the enemy because it does spread out. So
most stages that use the shotgun. If I had to do a lot of long distance shooting, the Vulcan guns are good for that. Laser rifles and napalm guns were for me at least more situational. Like for example, boss battles.
I didn't like the laser rifle. I used it like once and I was like, you run out of ammo too quickly and the reload time isn't worth it, so I'm out. But so and I've noticed that the Vulcan and the shotgun work differently. Once you run out of ammo for the shotgun, you have a reload time, whereas with the Vulcan, it actually, like, your bullets come back over time, which is nice. So, and you can actually upgrade these in the shop. You can upgrade the reload time and the damage and this and that, which is pretty cool. Honestly, that's not even really something in another front mission game I've seen. True. Maybe upgrading your Wanzer to have better evasion or something like that, but upgrading a weapon to have better reload time or just more damage, that's pretty cool, and I like that. The usage-based version system you just talked about, George, that's very unique. There's no other front mission game that I'm aware of that does that. There are a couple of the games that I've seen a similar idea used, but this is the only console game I'm aware of that uses a system like this. Yeah, I haven't seen anything like this exactly either.
Also pretty unique to this front mission gun hazard, front mission game is certain missions require you to actually have to get out and play the power for a while too, and the power has its own weapons. The power also, you the power you have handguns and hand grenades that you can use.
And this is the only front mission game I've seen that you can get new equipment for your pilot.
And you
on
need
top
it.
of
God,
them,
you need it.
oh geez, yes. On top of being able to have that stuff passively level up as well.
Right.
Eventually, in the front mission series, they took out the system where your pilot gets out of the mech.
Yes.
That I believe that started with like front mission 4, and it's like, I feel like that's not a bad idea anyway, because if you go and play front mission 3, it's a slog if you have somebody eject. And it's a really cool mechanic in that game where you could steal other people's Wanzers,
Right.
but it's just the way that it works is kind of a slog. So instead of trying to include that, just remove it entirely was not a bad decision, at least in my opinion.
Speaking about this game, Front Mission 3, I was also reminded of this playing it. This system was developed a lot better in Front Mission 3, but you start to see in this game some of the development about the job system that the later games in the series, like Front Mission 3, use. How certain allies are better off using certain mechs with certain weapons in them.
I don't remember that in Front Mission 3.
Well, yeah, Front Mission 3, you definitely had, characters came into the game with certain mechs, and they were best suited for that type of mech. You could change them out if you want to.
Well, they had experience to certain weapons already.
Right, and they were...
there's no, like, job system per se, though, because you can just give them a different weapon, and you can have them have better skill at that weapon than the other ones.
Right. But you did get pluses. You got bonuses by having that player in a certain type of mech with certain kind of weapons.
I don't remember that.
And you start to see this a little bit in Gun Hazard. Gun Hazard does kind of a similar thing.
I know, yeah, I've seen it in Gun Hazard, but I haven't seen it in Front Mission 3. That's weird.
Well, it wasn't as defined in that game as it was in later Front Mission games, but it was a little bit more defined there than it was here. But this is where that game. But this game, Gun Hazard, like where it starts. I didn't realize that idea was this old, so it's kind of fun to see that play around with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a pain in the butt though, because like the first, like the other than the pilot of the ship that you have your Wanzer on and everything, the first character that you get as an ally. Like, I still haven't found a Wanzer for him yet. He only takes specific Wanzers, apparently. None of the ones I have are ones that he can use, which is a pain in the butt. So I actually set him as an ally once, and he was running around with the handgun shooting at the mechs, and I was like, what are you doing? You shouldn't even be here then.
Just to get some examples of the game like we're talking about, Brenda's mech, for example, like provides aero support as a sniper type unit. Emil's mech is a repairman type, basically. So he be used to to fix you up during like battle scenes.
Yep.
So,
which is cool. I wish I unlocked him, but
There's also the remodeling feature in this game, also, which again is developed a lot better in later Front Mission games. That allows you to be able to upgrade your parts. For example, the shotgun can be outfitted with a larger barrel.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, there's a lot of this game that's not explained to you very well, if at all, when you first start playing, and you really have to dig into the game to figure out how the mechanics work and what does that and that kind of stuff. It's not as you asked me before. It's a lot of fun, but this is not the most user-friendly game to pick up and play.
If it's one thing I like, it's certainly customization.
Oh, customization's great, but it's a little bit clunky how this game does it. It does it, and I can only assume that all this stuff is covered in the manual in the Japanese release of the game, because it's not easy to figure out how all this stuff interacts with and plays with each other as the game goes on.
Customization. I'm sorry, go on.
Sorry. I just gonna finish the point by saying I definitely recommend looking at FAQ of this game when you start playing it to help get a better understanding of the systems in play here, so you can like understand how to properly get the most out of this game, and also maybe also kind of customize your and also start to think about how you may want to customize certain mechs as the game goes on, because you want to start doing those things more often. You should play through the game. Having said that, the game does offer a lot of replayability, though, I think, because there are different ways to play through the game, and no one system is actually quote unquote correct.
I don't know if you noticed, but I've been seeing that a lot of newer games are including customization, which is like really interesting because
customization is great.
Like I told you before we started recording, I've been playing Ghost Recon Wildlands, and like even that game lets you like almost fully customize your shooty guy, and it's really weird. It's just like, really? Like even in like shooters now we're having some kind of customization like that? Like I know multiplayer games that do that, but yeah, it's really interesting. I like it. The customization revolution should go on. Is all I wanted to say.
Okay, so that's what you were going to say earlier? Sorry.
That's all right. I wanted to let you finish your thought.
Okay, yeah. So the only downside to this game, I think, overall, and we've already covered most of these earlier, this game is not really pick up and play. I really do recommend looking at like a file to help you out, to avoid a lot of frustration and whatnot as you go through the game later on. Because those are things that presumably would have been covered in the manual if you had the ability to read Japanese, which we don't. So,
I wish I did.
The controls are a bit clunky. I thought in some areas. It takes a bit to get used to the controls.
Which areas?
Some of the side-scrolling stages where you got to do a lot of vertical movement, for example.
Oh, geez, yeah. You're right.
The game scrolls a lot better horizontally.
I don't know if you noticed, but there are two different control schemes for aiming.
Yes, I did. Yep.
Did you try the other one?
No, I did not. I tried it briefly. I tried it briefly and didn't care for it as much, so I just stayed with the regular one.
Right, and I thought it wasn't going to be that great, because the way that this game works is to aim. You use the D-pad, and you use the D-pad to also move. So wherever you're moving, basically, is where you're aiming. It's not bad. You get 8-way direction. That's good. I mean, I wish it was more precise, but it's an SNES game. Right. But there is another one that lets you use up and down to change the pitch, the angle of where you're aiming, and that's I can see why they added that as a control to be more precise, but I didn't even try it because I was just so afraid of it just not feeling great, and you just confirmed that for me. So yeah, I'll just stick to the movement one.
Well, both systems have been used to control mech-style games in the past. I think Square wanted to give the players a choice for whichever format that they were most comfortable with, which is good, because there are pros and cons to both systems. I played games in the past that used both systems of control before, and like, and the alternative way, the second way that you were talking about, George, you can't get used to it. I just don't think for a game with this type it works very well.
Oh, if I was forced to use it, like I would use that to play through this game. It probably, like, once you get over it and once you really get experience with it, I'm sure you could probably even do a little bit better. Yep. But as for a quote unquote pick up and play type of deal, the first option's better.
Yeah, definitely. So those are really the only two major drawbacks of this game I could think about. Did you have any negative points or negative points or things you wish had been done better?
Not really, to be honest.
Okay.
I know it's kind of shocking for me to say that, right? But honestly,
you already mentioned a couple.
I mean, this isn't a perfect game, certainly, but...
No, you already mentioned a couple of things. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, minor things though.
Yeah.
There's nothing really that bad gameplay wise. It's
Right.
a very solid game. This is, oh man, I was telling Greg I was really thinking about buying this off of eBay, to be honest.
Well, it's available. Like we'll talk about that here in a minute. But it's not a particularly long game either. The average playthrough time online is probably for a new player of a small amount of grinding is about like 15 hours. Most of the video playthroughs online, they go through the game in about 12, 13 hours. The speed run for this game appears to be about 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It's tool assisted, so.
Okay.
I really don't know what the speed run of it would be without tool assist, but
It's really important that you point out that's tool assisted because did a robot play it or did a robot not play it?
Yeah, I couldn't find anything on here for a speed run that was not tool assisted. So.
Ooh, I'm interested in that now. Believe it or not.
Most of the Let's Play video walkthroughs of this game online, they average for like 12 to 13 hours of gameplay, which is not.
That's not bad.
No, it's pretty good. I mean, like
I put in like about half of that already.
Yeah. No, I put in about 4 hours into the game. I would have played more, just I'm working a lot of time right now at work. I will go back to this game later on and finish it because I'm curious to see how it ends.
The first time I played this, I really got sucked in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a very fun, very unique game. This game sold well in Japan when it got released, 300,000 copies altogether.
I'm certainly not surprised.
Which back then was like pretty good numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame. It's a shame this game never came out like in the States. It has gotten online releases. That was available on the Virtual Console system in Japan, for example. But there has been as of yet no official Western release of this game. But as the Front Mission series continues to get popularity here in the States, maybe one might come out eventually. Who knows? But at least we have now the fan translated patch for the Super NES game, which is very good. So
yeah, and there's even repros out there.
There are repros. Yes, I was just about to cover that. If you want on eBay. The game itself is not that expensive. You can get a Japanese card of the game for $13, for example, starting off. There are available, however, a couple of sellers who make available a fully translated, ready to go version of the game, essentially, with the patch already applied and whatnot. You just plug in your Super NES or Retcon system of your choice and just play it that way. 3 of them recently sold. 2 copies were currently listed. It's kind of expensive though because you're paying for the privilege. You're paying for the fact somebody else has done the work for you. The copies that sold recently sold around $48 to $49, which is okay to pay, I think, if you're a big fan of the game. It's not right. It's not horrible. But if you want to, if you have a system that can just play Japanese games, for example, you can just grab a cheaper Japanese cart and just play and patch it that way.
Yep, that's what I was thinking of doing. I was thinking of just getting a Japanese cart, plugging it into the Retron, and patching it with the English patch, and
yep,
there you go.
Yep, that works. Yep, that works just as well. I will say this, however, the reproductions available do look very good. The label
they do, yes.
The label art they use is the actual Japanese label art for the game, and it's a very professional looking product. Like that actually would have looked probably if the game had been released in the States back then.
I bet you they probably would have changed the cover for the US version.
Yeah.
It'd probably be more centered around the mechs than the people.
Exactly, because anime was not really a big thing back then, so.
Like mid to late 90s? Starting to grow.
Yeah, but I think But yeah, I think for popularity reasons, they definitely would have changed it because they
Probably.
Front Mission 3 used the mech. Front Mission 3, the mech was like front and center.
What is the Japanese art for From Mission 3?
Let's find out.
Let us find out. You're right. We're gonna find that out right now. We're gonna look up the Front Mission 3 Japanese. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say.
Well, while I do that, why don't you talk about like your final impressions of the game?
It's a great game. I honestly, anybody who's listening to this, I honestly suggest that you give this game at least 1 hour and see how you like it.
Especially
honestly,
if you're a fan of like action RPGs, like mech games in general.
Which I like both. So, the Front Mission 3 Japanese art is also the mech.
Not according to this.
I see a lot of different covers that say Front Mission 3, and all I see is the mech.
Okay. This is the collection I'm looking at here. The collection artwork's different.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh no, I see cover for Front Mission Online. Close the tab.
Yeah.
That's it. We're done
you're
for
right.
today.
The Japanese, American, European versions are Japanese, American, and European version of Front Mission 3 all have slightly different artwork. But they all feature mech front and center.
Right.
Personally, I think the U.S. I think the U.S. one looks the best. But the European one's like pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a sidetrack.
Sorry, that was my fault.
Yeah.
Wait, they're all my fault. Whoops.
Yeah. No, yeah, because I think only that 4 Front Mission games have only come out here in the States. Front Mission for the DS, Front Mission 3, Front Mission 4, and Front Mission Evolved. I think the only ones that have come out here in the States.
Jeez, I think you're right.
So this is the franchise. This is the franchise. You need to get like more love because it's definitely a great franchise.
Well, I'm glad that people translated the other games because I'm gonna go to those too.
Yep.
I still need to finish Gun Hazard. I think once I finish Gun Hazard, I'm gonna go and I don't know. I'm probably gonna finish 4 or take a look at 5 or something.
Yeah, I'm very curious to play about Front Mission 2 and Front Mission 5 because I'll have to see.
Oh yeah, I sent you that link for that translated version of 5. Yep.
I'm sure there's I'm sure there gotta be. I'm sure there has to be like one out there for 2 somewhere too. So.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure there is something somewhere.
But yeah, so
I hope so.
Yep. So this game can be a little bit intimidating at first. Like I said, it's not very user friendly. There's a lot there's a lot to figure out relatively fast. But if you give the game a little bit of time, like George said, like it's like you're like very fast. And like I think the game scales difficulty pretty well. There's a few missions I think that are kind of difficult. But the game does give you the option to go back and grind and also improve your abilities in other missions. In other missions you want to. So you can put as much time in this game as you want to, depending upon your skill level and your skill level and gameplay style.
Like I said, if you're listening to this episode, give that game at least an hour. And if you don't like it, you know what? Then don't play it. But if you like it, which you probably will, then you're welcome.
Yeah, and regardless, check out the soundtrack. The soundtrack's amazing.
Oh man. Yeah, I wish I was listening to it in the background while doing this podcast. I know I'll be listening to it when I edit. Yeah,
the Front Mission OST on YouTube is the full 2.5 hours long. That's how much music's in this game. Seriously.
That's a lot. I didn't even realize.
Yep.
They should release that on like record or something. I buy it.
It was in Japan.
I might have to go on eBay.
But the Front Mission games,
no eBay, bad.
But yeah, the Front Mission games have always had great music. The soundtrack Front Mission 3 is like very good as well.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, I think that about covers it. I think about covers everything covers everything that we can say about this game, like this podcast.
I think so.
Definitely a great game. Thank you for recommending it, George. Because I don't think I would have played it otherwise. I knew it existed, but it's like time, backlog, games.
Yeah, no, I hear you. My backlog keeps growing, and it's not going to stop. And one day it's going to consume me.
I was talking to George. I was talking to George last week. My backlog in Steam. Well, my games total in Steam is now across 800 games.
Yeah, he caught up to me. Because I haven't been working. I don't have as much money to buy games, so he's been catching up on me. He's gonna pass me soon.
So next time on the podcast, we're going to be looking at another combat-oriented game, but combat-oriented in kind of a different way. This is a game that I had played as a kid and remember it being like quite a lot of fun. So I'm curious to see how it holds up today. We're going to be looking at Gary Kitchen's Super Battle Tank War in the Gulf, which is a tank simulator / action game where you're controlling an M1A1 tank during Operation Desert Storm, shooting up enemy tanks and vehicles and whatnot. Very, very successful game when it came out. So and successful enough to spawn a sequel as well. So
we'll see how that is.
Yep, and Gary Kitchen's an industry veteran. The guy's been in the business since the Atari 2600 days, with a lot of great games under his belt. So,
would you say that it gives you everything, including the kitchen sink?
Yes, I would.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
But anyway, so yep. We're going to be looking at that next time.
Yay.
Our 100th episodes are shaping up, like the draft episode. So, yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So that should be coming out to you in a few months. We are a proud member of both the Retro Junkies and Throwback Networks, where you can find a whole bunch of other great retro-themed podcasts, both gaming and non-gaming related. It's expanding by leaps and bounds. There's a new Links podcast that recently came out. That's very good.
Ooh.
Yeah. So even the less love systems are starting to get some love these days.
But what about the Master System? That's been around for a couple of years now.
That's a podcast that you do also, George. So
yeah, Master System masterpieces. That was a bad segue I made. Anyway, Kurt and I also do PlayStation Power. Yes, we do. We covered Front Mission 3 like a while back. To be curious about more games in the Front Mission series, I think that was episode 3, Greg.
Yeah, it was an early one, yes, because it's a favorite game.
Very early.
Yep. But
oh, dude,
we need to cover Front Mission 4 on that podcast at some point too.
Oh, well, I'm working on playing it, so maybe that'll be like one of the more recent PS2 games that we choose. Who knows?
Yep, definitely. So. Where can listeners find you at, George?
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Chief. That's at MISTURCHEEF. Or you can find me on YouTube. I have 2 channels now because one is for PlayStation Power, and that's just the podcast with gameplay in the background. But I think I do a pretty good job of editing and not playing the game, because I'm terrible at playing the game, I guess. But yeah, also Mr. Chief, which is my main channel. It's same name, same spelling as my Twitter. And I've been putting videos up on there, but I wouldn't say they're family friendly because of reasons. But hey, it's a fun time. I have fun. If you watch, you have fun, I hope. But yeah.
Right. We also have a Facebook page where you can check us out and also give us comments, suggestions, feedback, that kind of stuff. If you want to, you can also email me directly at the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com.
Yes.
And we're also on iTunes, so check us out there and give us a rating review if you're so inclined. It's very much appreciated.
Yes.
And I think that's it for this episode. So thank you again, as always, for joining us and for your support. Thank you again for checking us out for a imported Japanese game. This is our fourth Japanese only game I think we covered for the podcast, if I'm remembering correctly. So
that might be right, yeah.
But yeah, we try to focus upon games that have been translated very well, so you can easily pick them up and play. And this game's no exception. So definitely check it out.
Also, you're welcome for bringing in Japanese games.
Well, the library's big enough, just covering the U.S. games, not to mention the Japanese and the Japanese library. Oh boy.
Oh boy, is right.
But we will be covering more Japanese games later on down the road. George and I have already talked about a couple games that we want to look at later on. So
when do we get to do another pachinko game?
I don't know, but I don't know, but we're definitely gonna be. So there's definitely a Japanese only pinball game that we need to look at some point because that looks like pretty far out there.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. that one pinball game we talked about. Yes.
Yeah, the Japanese, they're very strange oddball games. So, but
they're great.
Yeah, and this game's not very an oddball. This game fits very well with games that came out in the States around the same time period. So, but
yeah.
So, alrighty, on that front and on that note,
on that front mission.
Yes, on that coverage, we're going to be ending this podcast. So, thank you again very much for listening, as always, and take care, everybody.
Pew pew, I'm a gun robot.
Bang bang, you're dead.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Deep power.